Some of the Greek gods were associated with some pretty complex and even abstract ideas: time, memory, and prophecy. These attributes usually came through their connections to an older generation of deities known as the Titans. In Greek mythology, Titans were parents of the gods who passed incredible powers through their lineages. One Titaness to have this kind of influence in Greek mythology was Phoebe. She became the third prophet at the Oracle of Delphi, where she was believed to have heard her mother's voices. Her predecessors were Gaia and Themis. Gaia honorably gave her place to her daughter Themis, who then gave it to her sister Phoebe. However, according to Aeschylus' myth, Phoebe had felt like having extreme burden to carry and gave away her place to her grandson Apollo as a present for his birthday, probably to motivate him. Apollo then presided over the prophetic power of light and heavens. Phoebe was a Titaness and deity associated with prophecy, and specifically the shining light and bright intellect that the Greeks attributed to the gifts of prophecy. With such a special power, it's no surprise that Phoebe's lineage included some important figures. Her mother was Gaia, the personification of the earth, and one of the oldest primordial deities in the Greek religion. Her father was Uranus, personification of the sky. This made Phoebe one of the 12 original Titans born to these parents. Phoebe herself ended up marrying her brother Koios, a titan of intellect and embodiment of the inquisitive mind. So Phoebe represented the bright intellect, and he was inquisitiveness. They were a good match. Together, Phoebe and Koios had 2 daughters. As with most of the older Titans, this was their main contribution to Greek mythology. Their first daughter was Asteria, a titan of oracles and prophecies. Asteria herself was the mother of Hecate, a goddess of magic. Asteria also plays an important role in Greek mythology as one of the many beautiful women to inspire Zeus's insatiable lust. Asteria flung herself into the Aegean Sea in the form of a quail in order to escape the advances of Zeus. She became the Quail Islands of Ortygia. Later, the island Asteria was identified with Delos, which was the only piece of earth to give refuge to the fugitive Leto. When pregnant with Zeus's children, she was pursued by vengeful Hera. Phoebe's older daughter was Leto, a titaness of modesty and motherhood. Leto was also very beautiful and also captured the attention of Zeus. From this union, she became pregnant with twins. Zeus and Leto had an affair which caused Hera to hate Leto. When Leto was going into labor, Hera made all land shun Leto so she could find no place to give birth. Poseidon, god of the seas, had recently created a new island called Delos that was not yet attached to the earth, thus not yet land. Leto went here and laid under a palm tree to give birth. Yet she couldn't give birth because Hera had forbid Eileithyia, goddess of childbirth, to go to her. Eventually, the other goddesses felt bad for Leto and offered Hera a beautiful necklace to allow Leto to give birth. Hera accepted, and Iris took Eileithyia straight to Leto. Leto, with the aid of a rooster and Eileithyia, gave birth to her twins. The age of the Titans would come to an end, just as the rule of Uranus and the primordial gods had for Cronus' son. Zeus would lead a rebellion against his father, a rebellion that led to a 10-year war, the Titanomachy. Brief details of the Titanomachy are to be found in surviving sources, but it was known that the majority of the male Titans fought from Mount Othrys, while Zeus and his allies were to be found upon Mount Olympus. Phoebe and the other female Titans, though, were not active in the fighting, although it is to be believed that they were sympathetic to the war being fought by her husband and brothers. The rise of the gods of Mount Olympus was of course assured with victory in the Titanomachy, and of course Zeus would take up the position of supreme deity from his father. Those who had fought against Zeus were punished in various forms, with most of the male Titans imprisoned for eternity in Tartarus. Phoebe, having not played an active role in the war, went without punishment and was allowed to remain free. Phoebe's status, though, was now greatly reduced, for her spheres of influence were distributed amongst other deities. Selene would become the primary Greek goddess associated with the moon, whilst her own grandson Apollo would be the Olympian god most closely associated with prophecy. A Greek mythological tale had the symbolic passing of power from Phoebe to her grandson. For it was said that Phoebe gave Apollo ownership of the oracle at Delphi upon his birthday. With the passing of power, the name of Phoebe all but disappears from the story of ancient Greece. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.